Ok. Buenos días a todos allá en Guatemala. Bienvenidos al Keynote de .NET Conf Guatemala 2024. El día de hoy tenemos un invitado muy especial. Para quienes lo conocen es James Montemagno. Él es parte del equipo core de .NET y pues lo voy a introducir en este momento en inglés. Entonces, a partir de ahora en adelante vamos a hablar inglés. Hi, James. Thanks for being with us today. It's such an honor for us to have somebody like you in this .NET Conf Guatemala 2024. Really excited.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here, and thank you so much for having me, Carlos. And yeah, like I haven't actually been to Guatemala, so like when I'm there next, it's on my list. I will let you know, and we'll do some stuff in person there. It'll be
That sounds cool.
absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I can't wait to make my way over, and then we'll do some stuff in person. So we'll make it happen. How's that sound?
That's super cool. Very excited. All right, I will like go backstage and let you go. And once again, thank you so much for everything.
Sounds great. Well, thanks everyone. I'm really excited to be here with everyone, and really excited to kind of talk about everything that's happening in the world of .NET with .NET 9 and everything around AI and cloud native development and so much more. I'm James Montemagno. I'm a developer on our developer community team at Microsoft. I've been a .NET developer forever, building mobile and desktop apps and web apps and all that goodness. And I'm just super excited to be here talking about everything that happened. So I want to kind of go through some of the highlights of .NET 9. I have some different demos from what we actually like showed at .NET Conf to kind of talk about how we're evolving the different spaces. And feel free, we'll take some questions at the end. I'm trying to keep it nice and tight to about 30 minutes, so we'll see how we do. But yeah, I'm super excited to be here with everyone, and I hope that everyone's real excited for everything happening in the world of .NET. It's an amazing time to be a .NET developer. There's all the things that are happening, especially around AI right now, but all of our amazing tooling with Visual Studio and VS Code. And I'm going to highlight some of those things today. So let's get into it. So first and foremost, .NET truly is that platform to build for anything, right? Whether you want to build cloud or mobile or desktop or games or IoT or AI applications, we give you world-class tools with Visual Studio, Command Line, and GitHub Copilot. You can develop on Windows, Mac, or Linux. And of course, you have an amazing, thriving ecosystem out there of amazing library community, vendors that are out there, open source projects, MVPs, amazing people putting on this conference right now. It's so cool. So there's amazing things to do. Now, .NET 9 is the latest release, but every single year, every single month, there's brand new updates and enhancements for .NET developers. So while we celebrate major releases every November, there's a lot of things that have happened. So since .NET 8, there's been amazing enhancements in both Visual Studio and VS Code for C# and .NET MAUI developers, and even Unity extensions for VS Code. There's been new additions and enhancements to security for NuGet, improvements to GitHub Copilot, brand new training, and a bunch of different new integrations from the community with the community toolkit, for example. And we also continuously see vast adoption of brand new versions of .NET as well. So it's amazing to see all the increased enhancements as the year progresses. So make sure you stay up to date with everything happening in .NET on the .NET blog and the .NET YouTube as well. Now, of course, .NET is loved by developers and trusted by enterprises across the globe. We have nearly 7 million active developers building with .NET, tens of thousands of community members contributing to .NET, and C# and .NET continue to be the most admired developer framework on the Stack Overflow survey. C# ranks as a top programming language, and ASP.NET Core continues to take top spot in web platform as well. And of course, C#, top programming language on GitHub, and also .NET itself is one of the highest velocity open source projects. So continuous investment time and time again. Now, .NET 9 itself, which is the latest release, is the most productive, modern, intelligent, performant release of .NET yet. And we kind of say that every release, really. It's more productive, it's more secure, it's more performant, right? Wouldn't it be, right? But there's so much more than just the runtime. There's things that for every single application by just upgrading to .NET 9, but also great enhancements to the frameworks and the platforms that you use to build applications with .NET. So let me do a few highlights here of .NET first. I think when it comes to productivity, we've really helped to infuse you every single day with AI enhancements, with GitHub Copilot, with new improvements to Visual Studio and VS Code, and also helping you sort of just be more productive every single day when you build your applications, debug your applications, and get console logs and get that all back with .NET Aspire, which I'm going to talk about here in a bit. We've made a lot of improvements for security and modernization, whether you're building Blazor web applications or desktop applications with .NET MAUI or WinUI 3 or WPF or WinForms, and made great enhancements to NuGet as well, so you can get insight if there's any security vulnerabilities. The .NET team has been doing vast improvements and optimizations when it comes to AI at a runtime level and at a library level as well, to give you building blocks and the necessary components to build AI applications. And then, of course, it's the fastest ever. And we'll talk about that a bit. There's a new adaptive garbage collection that makes it super duper fast. They've improved the Blazor startup time. There's more native AOT trimming and so much more. So let's talk about performance. Like, really, in this release and every release, there's thousands of performance related pull requests into the runtime and into the frameworks as well, from every single bit that you could imagine, from working with JSON to working with garbage collection to compression to networking. The team optimizes every single bit of .NET. So when you upgrade, you just get all that stuff for free, which is great. And they introduce new APIs as well, so you can even get more performance out of it. When it comes to ASP.NET Core, it is the fastest release yet. They've increased the throughput, which is somehow spectacular. I don't know how they're getting even more out of it. They've reduced memory usage and reduced that startup time. They've improved the entirety of Blazor server with WebSocket connection for new compression. And they're working also, when you're building with static web assets, new pre-compress and improved caching layers as well. So it's not just the actual running of the application, but it's the things in our application that are smaller, faster, and are more delightful for your users at the end of the day. Now, we really want to make sure that you have the best way to build applications. And we think .NET is that, from modern workloads to great productivity to those fundamentals that are so important when you're building your application. So that's what I want to talk about today, is sort of the entire stack and what we're doing to help you build apps better and make sure that you have those fundamentals, those building blocks to build observable, resilient, scalable, and manageable applications. And that's where .NET Aspire comes in. And that's what I'm going to focus the first half of the keynote here on. And then I'm going to talk about AI. But .NET Aspire launched at Build last year in 2024. And it really is building blocks for app development. And what that means from a high level is that it gives you a powerful set of tools and templates and NuGet packages for building any type of application. So it gives you enhanced inner loop, and I'll talk about what that actually means. It gives you an amazing developer dashboard directly on your machine, so you can get insight into your entire application. You get great integration. So if you want to add Redis or Postgres or SQL or Azure integrations, you can do that. And it gives you a streamlined way of doing deployment for your applications. Now, what does streamlined inner loop mean? That seems like just jargon, really. Like some marketing person put it on this slide, and that's actually probably what happened. But inner loop is the thing that we do on our dev machines. It is going in, it is adding projects, it is hitting debug, it is starting containers, it's pulling down containers, it's stopping projects, it's restarting projects. It's sort of the entire package of your application. It's the things that we do every single day. So we want to make that faster. That's what that means. And that's what we're really going to focus on. So it is easy to get started with .NET Aspire. It's all 100% open source. It's easy to build and adds additional, basically, defaults to your application to give you logs, metrics, traces, the service discovery, resiliency built into your application. And it also enables you to easily deploy if you want to with an opinionated deployment mechanism, or you can just continue to deploy your application exactly the same that you're doing today. So you can sort of think of it as two parts: local development and also a simplified development. But that first part, the actual simplified development of your application, is the key to .NET Aspire. So let me just show you what this looks like, because it's way better just to kind of see it in action. So I'm going to pull up my dev box here. And what I have is an application that's called Tiny Shop. It's a very simple application. It has a ASP.NET Core backend here. So we just have a little in-memory database, for example. Just a very simple endpoint that's going on here with simple gets and sets for products. And then I also have a store. So this is just a simple Blazor application that's going to call that API, pull it down. We can see here that I'm just using a standard HTTP client. I have an app setting over here, which is just hard-coded local host here. And then because I want to debug my application, backend and front end, I've created a new startup project. I've created a new profile, and I've said start both projects and go from there. So now I can hit start here. And this is going to compile up both applications. It's going to start both processes. It's going to open up a bunch of windows, and we should see my application actually start up. So a bunch of things are happening on my machine. A bunch of pop-ups are happening. I got an exception here. That's okay. There we go. And now I have my web app. I have a bunch of different logs that are happening here. So I actually have some failure that happened here. That's fascinating. Let me go to my products. And here's my products that are going on here. So the first thing to kind of note is that it totally works fine, but I have a bunch of windows. I'm not really seeing like, how did this exception happen? Like, where did it happen? Was it in the front end? Was it in the back end? A bunch of windows. I had to configure things. For even new developers getting started with this project, it'd be a little tedious. So let's add .NET Aspire support to this. All I need to do is right click and say add .NET Aspire orchestrator support. Now what this does is it pops up and it says, hey, we want to create two projects, an app host and service defaults into this project. And that's what it's going to do. So it's going to orchestrate my project, and just one project right now. So we can see what this looks like. The first thing that we'll note over here, let me zoom in if I can. There we go. Perfect. Is that we have this app host project, and you can think of this as the orchestrator. So everything that belongs in my project, and then this service defaults. And this is sort of the set of defaults that all of my projects will take. So I'm going to open up this program CS over here. And what we're going to see is that it's very simple. All it has is a distributed application. It says products, and it has a name of products as a key in there. And that's it. Inside of my service defaults, if I open that up, we can see that this is where it will configure open telemetry. It will configure health checks for me, service discovery. So automatically it will be able to discover services between each other. It will configure HTTP client standard resiliency with Poly, and it will also add service discovery to HTTP clients too. You can customize this so it gives you a set of default open telemetry. It gives you a default set of exporters. So if you want to export this into Azure Monitor, you could do that as well. It gives you health checks. It also gives you automatic mapping of endpoints too. If I go into my products up here, we can see that Visual Studio automatically added those service defaults for me. So one project's cool, but let's also orchestrate the front end. So I'm just going to say add .NET Aspire orchestrator support. Visual Studio knows that I already have an app host, so it's going to go ahead and just add orchestration here. So now when I go into that app host, we can see here that it's now added the store for me. Okay. Now it's also gone into that store just like it did on the products, and it's added the service defaults for me and those endpoints. So this is really neat. So now, instead of having multiple projects that I need to start up and do a bunch of things, I start my app host. Now, notice I haven't changed any code at all or any connection strings or anything like that. All I need to do is hit run. And now the .NET Aspire app host will be my startup project. I get one distributed application that's starting. And instead of getting a bunch of pop-ups and a bunch of back-end pop-ups and a bunch of front-end pop-ups, I get one pop-up with the .NET Aspire dashboard. And what this is going to show me is all of my projects. So I have my products and my store running. I can see all of my endpoints here. I can start and stop those projects. I can restart them if I wanted to here. What's cool is I can simply tap on that and it shows me my API. I can go in here. I can click on my front end. I'm just going to go and see this come in here, and I can refresh it here and see those coming in. All right, which is pretty cool. What's nice is that I can also take a look at the logs. So here's all the logs coming into my products, into my store that's coming in here. And we'll see that automatically we're getting some information such as HTTP retry attempts, how long they're happening, what's going on. So we see an execution attempt from Poly, for example. Structured kind of console logs are cool, but structured logs give me access to everything happening in my application. So we can see the startup of my products, the store coming in here. I can take a look and take action on this and see details. Or if I want to, I can come in and take a look at a trace. And this trace here is showing me everything happening in my application. So I called get products on my store. It called my backend. It returned information to me and actually retried twice here because I clicked it twice here and got that information back. I can click on traces. I can see all the traces coming into my application. And if I refresh this enough, let's see, I should at some point maybe get an exception. All right, cool. That's great. Here. So let's see here. We get a few exceptions going on. This is great. Cool. There you go. Perfect. So here I have inserted like a bug that kind of like crashes and kind of like does an exception on occasion. So we'll see if we get those back. Let's put that there. A lot of exceptions. Okay, cool. Maybe it's a little bit too much. Perfect. All right, cool. So here, this is neat, right? So now I get the dashboard updating in real time, and I can see this exception here. This actually tried to make a bunch of different calls to products. So we can see it took 16 seconds. Here I can see this one failed, tried again, and then got that information back too. So we get this insight into our application. I can click on one, get detailed information about everything happening in my app. And I also get metrics. So I can actually tap on the products, for example. I can look at different request duration that's going on, how long it took in my application. I could look at processes. I could look at CPU counts. I could look at memory counts and active requests, everything coming back in real time. I didn't actually change anything in my application, but things get way cooler. So let me go ahead and tear this down here. I'm going to go back into my app host. And I'm going to give this a name. I'm going to say var products here. And what I'm able to do is give it references to each other. So I'm going to say with reference products. And what this is going to tell .NET Aspire for our service discovery is that our front end would like to have access and insight into our back end. So now if I go into my application, I no longer need these different endpoints. So if I look at what's going in here, we can see product endpoint. I can come into this and I can actually delete this. I can say HTTP plus HTTPS, and I'm just going to go ahead and put in products here. Perfect. So now with that single line of code, I've opted in to service discovery because our service defaults have that. I no longer have to hard code these URLs and ports inside of my application. .NET Aspire and just normal .NET packages will use service discovery for me. Now here, for example, if I actually take a look and click on the products, I have all this information of all the endpoints, everything that's running in my application. And I also have all these environment variables down over here too. So if I go ahead and look, we can see all of these environment variables were automatically created for me. And on my front end, I can see that here, it's created additional environment variables for me automatically with that with reference. So now when I tap on this and I go into my products, we can see that it still works 100% the same, which is super cool, right? So I get all this telemetry, all this data in my application. It makes me really productive when I'm building my application. But let's do one more thing. Let's say we wanted to come in and we wanted to add, I don't know, Redis into this application. I'm going to go into the app host and I'm going to say add .NET Aspire package. And there's two types of packages and components for .NET Aspire, these integrations. There's the hosting, which is sort of, here's how, what is required in my application. So maybe here, example, I want like Redis in my application, or I might want, for example, PostgreSDB, or I might want SQL Server or RabbitMQ or Dapper, for example, here. There's all these integrations that are here. And these integrations will know how to download the container, start up a container for me, and do everything that I may need. In addition to the app host here, if I right click, for example, on my front end, I could say add .NET Aspire package. And now these are the integrations for my front end project. So I could add Redis, I could add Entity Framework PostgreSDB, distributed caching, output caching. I'm in control. But let's check this out really quick. I've added into my app host, I'm going to say var cache, and I'm going to say builder.add Redis. Let's give it cache here. And I can even say with Redis commander, for example. And with that one line of code, maybe I want to add caching into my front end as well. So I could say with reference cache. And that will set up all of the information that it needs to actually pull down the Redis container for me, start it up, pull down the Redis commander container, start it up, and then additionally create that connection with service discovery into my front end. And of course, I'd have to go ahead and do that too. But here we can now see there's containers starting up. And in fact, if we were to come into my images, we can see a Redis image just got pulled down. There's the Redis commander image, and the containers are starting up here automatically for me. I didn't have to do anything. That's that inner loop, right? And now I have all of this running here on my local machine. I have a Redis commander. I didn't have to do anything. It took seconds to do because .NET Aspire was there to help me the entire way. All right, that's a quick 10-minute tour of .NET Aspire, but there's so much more to dive into as well. So not only, like I said, are there integrations for things that you're already probably using today, like Redis and SQL and Postgres, but there's a lot more, not only from the team at Microsoft, but also companies around the globe building these amazing integrations. So there's probably something you're using, and you can build your own too. What's really cool is that it also supports .Azure Functions in Preview 2. So you can orchestrate all your backends, your front ends, your console applications, and so much more, but also add Azure Functions into the mix. And finally, there's a brand new .NET Aspire Community Toolkit, which adds additional integrations too. There's so much more. There's things such as Rust, for example, Dino support, Olama support, Java support, Go support, static container apps, so much more. So there's all sorts of amazing integrations happening from the community. So .NET Aspire is flourishing and growing. And even if you just use it on your local machine for local development, I know you're going to love it. I've been absolutely loving every bit of Aspire. And in .NET 9, with .NET Aspire 9, there's tons more great integrations. Ability to sort of easily start and stop resources, add persistent containers, easily deploy things to Azure and Azure Container Apps, and easier than ever to get started. You can go into Visual Studio or VS Code and say File New .NET Aspire Starter Project, and it'll give you a backend, a front end, and everything for you automatically. So whether you add it to an existing app or start a new app, you're good to go. All right, let's talk about AI. Everything in the world of AI is evolving quickly, and .NET is evolving quickly with AI as well. Whether it be amazing backend APIs and integrations, to brand new models that you can run, to smart components and integrations that you can add into your existing applications, .NET is there time and time again and evolving as the AI ecosystem evolves. Now, there's a lot on this single slide and all these integrations that you could pull from, right? You could decide to go to Azure OpenAI, or you could go into the OpenAI library for .NET, or you could use GitHub models. You could decide to use Pinecone, or you could use Semantic Kernel. There's a lot of options. So what the .NET team has been thinking about a lot is how to simplify AI development and give you choice and options for these different integrations. Maybe you want to use Olama, maybe you want to use GitHub models, maybe you want to use Azure AI, maybe you want to use OpenAI. Be flexible as well. So what the team has done is they've created sort of building blocks for AI applications with Microsoft Extensions AI, or MEAI. That's what we often call it here. Think of it as middleware for AI applications. You have your .NET application that wants to use AI. You have a set of interfaces that you can build against to easily integrate in AI SDKs from Olama, from OpenAI, from Azure. Use libraries like Semantic Kernel that access to vector data stores, and you get these abstractions to easily integrate into your application. So it's really, really neat. So it is all set up to give you this common AI abstraction, because if you're wanting to chat with one model, it should be very similar to chat with another model or another service. So they standardized this today. It's available in preview. And I want to show you how easy it is to start building an application leveraging different services. So let me go ahead and show you that. I'm going to hop back over into my dev box. I'm going to close down this existing app. Let's go ahead and get rid of Tiny Shop by Tiny Shop. All right. And I have a very simple AI application here. All it literally is a console application. I've added a few user secrets here. So I have my OpenAI key in there and the models that I want to use. I'm using GPT-4o and I'm using an embedding model here. So right now it's no application. So it's literally just a while loop that asks for a prompt, and at some point an AI is going to respond. Okay. So let's say we wanted to make like a hiking application, right? I have a store and I want to give people recommendations on where to hike, for example. Maybe it's my first time in Guatemala and maybe I want to know where to hike, for example, right? So the first thing I've done is I've added a series of Microsoft extensions AI, one for OpenAI, one for Ollama, and I've also added a vector database here as well. I have a few other things in here that we'll talk about too. All right, so the first thing I need to do here is I'm going to just drag and drop a few snippets of code because it's really minimal. The first thing I'm doing here is I'm creating an iChat client, and that is coming from Microsoft Extensions AI. They basically said, hey, all chat clients are pretty similar. They have a chat history, and you chat with them, you get response back, you're good to go. I'm creating a new OpenAI client, passing it my key, and then I'm just saying as chat client with a specific model, and that's going to convert the OpenAI client to a chat client. Okay, so now what I need to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start some chat history. So in this case, I'm going to give it sort of the prompt. I'm going to give it a system prompt. And this is coming from Microsoft Extensions AI. So I want to like create this history here. So I just have a list of chat messages, which again are also coming from Microsoft Extensions AI. And this is going to say, hey, like, you know, it's a friendly hiking enthusiast chatbot. Introduce yourself, say hello, ask it where it wants to go hiking, and also what intensity you're looking for. And then it's telling it to provide 3 suggestions. So you're sort of telling the service what you want it to do. Okay. Perfect. So I've created that there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down with that system and I'm going to come in and I'm going to just simply read a line here. Very simple. I'm going to say, give me your prompt. I'm going to read the line. And then I'm going to add another message into my chat history here. I'm going to say, this is coming from the user, and here's the message. So I could ask it information, for example. And then I need the AI to respond. So I'm just going to go ahead and put this down here. Perfect. Now this one is also pretty simple too. So here, I'm just going to go through, and what's happening is it's going to go off. It's going to say, hey, chat client, complete streaming async. So here's the chat history. Figure out what you want to say next. So here, this is going to stream back results. So you kind of get those different blocks coming in real time. So you can see those come in, and it's going to write them out, kind of add those responses locally. And then when it's all done with its output, I'm just going to add that to the chat history. And the reason we're building up this chat history is because if I'm using GPT-4o, for example, it needs the entire context of the conversation to figure out what to say next. All right. And that's literally it. Like, I'm just giving it a system prompt, asking my user what they want to say. And then here, I'm just outputting the prompt from the actual AI bot. So I'm just going to run this here. And now we're going to get a command prompt that opens up and it's going to ask me some, hopefully, information. The first thing it's going to do is just ask me for my prompt. There we go. So I'm going to say, hello. And now we're going to see that, hey, I'm a friendly hiking enthusiast, ready to help me discover some fun hikes. Where would you like to go? I am taking a trip to Guatemala soon. Cool. All right. So now it asks me. Now notice it asks me here. It says, where are you going and what intensity? So it knows, hey, you're going to Guatemala. That's exciting. I am excited. It's a stunning place. Lots of diverse landscapes and rich cultural history. I'm excited. Okay. And like, what do I want? Do I want moderate, easy, challenging? I'm going to go moderate. Let's start with moderate. Okay. So now we can see, I'll go here, that it's giving me recommendations all in real time, right? With just a few lines of code here. So the Lake Etalon loop Pasaya. I'm going to say all these incorrect. My wife is the Spanish major. I am not. And sumac here. So it gives me all these. Oh, and waterfalls. I love waterfalls. Let's see if I can do this. I love, oops, see if this. Oops. Oh, I love waterfalls. What hikes there have them? Question mark. Let's see if it does it. Oh, perfect. So now it gives me more information. You can dive deeper into this, right? With just a few lines of code. So that's really, really cool. Now, this is calling out to OpenAI. I could call it to GitHub Models. I could call out to Azure OpenAI. But I also have Ollama running here locally on my machine. So I've installed Ollama because maybe I just want to do local development here. So I've pulled down an Ollama model, right? Maybe I don't want to burn through all my credits on OpenAI or Azure OpenAI here, right? So I'm just running Ollama here locally. So check this out. If I want to change my entire chat client instead of calling OpenAI, all I got to do is delete that. I'm going to pull in another line of code, which is just an Ollama chat client, because there's a Microsoft Extensions AI Ollama library. And here I'm telling it that, hey, it's running on localhost. The model is Phi 3 Mini. And now when I start up my application, this is now running locally on my machine. I'll say, hello there. Hello there. There we go. So now, of course, it's going to have different context, right? It's going to perform a little bit differently because it is running locally on my machine. Hopefully here, let's see, it should be, there we go. Perfect. Doing a little bit different. So here it's just telling me very similar things, but different because this is the Ollama model here. So I'll say, I would like to find out about easy hikes in Portland, Oregon. There we go. Let's see if it knows. And now it's going to know the same thing. So here it's giving me information about Portland and the loops. Interesting. I want to see if I've been to any of these. I haven't been to any of these. This is great. Oh, that's cool. And you can see it actually provides different types of information, different spacing about it compared to the other one as well, because we're using a completely different model. But from a developer's perspective, trying out different models, enhancing different models, I didn't have to learn a new API. When you come here, I have an iChat client that's going to give me all the operations to complete asynchronously, to complete streaming. I'm using the same chat history. One API, that's all I need to learn to get ready started with it. And there's so much more vector data, vectors, and more than chatbots. And there's amazing samples and demos out there as well. Now, that's just a little bit about .NET Aspire and about AI in .NET 9 to get you started today. But there's so much more. When ASP.NET Core, there have been sweeping improvements from easier developer setup to faster startup of those Blazor applications to new authentication and security models and a whole lot more. My favorite feature of ASP.NET Core is a brand new built-in open API support, enabling you to use any sort of open API descriptor as well. It's really awesome. When it comes to .NET MAUI, my favorite for building mobile and desktop applications, the team has done a fantastic job not only supporting the latest in iOS and Android. They've added new integrations for Xcode, new binding project support, new title bar support, new input layouts, easier to access native APIs, and sweeping enhancements for performance and optimization as well. Absolutely fantastic. Oh, that's from the other side. There we go. And if you're a Windows developer, whether you're using WinUI to build new modern Windows applications or modernizing WPF or WinForms app, there's amazing enhancements for Windows app developers out there today, from performance, accessibility, new productivity, and there's awesome new dark mode for WinForms, new fluent theming for WPF applications. It's awesome. So definitely, if you're building Windows applications, there's awesome reasons to upgrade to .NET 9. There's tons more in .NET 9 that obviously I can't cover in just 30 minutes and just talking about Aspire and AI. So make sure you check out all the sessions from .NET Conf and everything else today that y'all are enjoying. Get Visual Studio, Visual Studio Code, and of course, the brand new GitHub Copilot free and both IDEs and code editors. I'm going to skip over that really there. But there's so much more to build. So check out everything inside of it. And of course, you can get it today. Simply go to aka.ms/get.net9 or go to the .NET website. We've also partnered with Free Code Camp for anyone just getting started with C# with a full C# certification. And there's a brand new .NET Aspire training as well on Microsoft Learn, which is completely free. And there's a brand new credential as well. So you can take an exam, get a credential as well, and then show kind of how you've been building and learning and building .NET Aspire applications. So that's it from me. Hope everyone goes out, tries out and Aspire in your existing applications. And if you're new to AI, even like I'm brand new as well, definitely give the Microsoft Extensions AI a look because it is really streamlining AI development for .NET developers. So that's it for me. And I have a few minutes around too if we want to ask some questions.
I was on mute, of course. So that was that was fantastic, James. Thank you so much. Actually, I think I have a complaint for the StreamYard product team. I was looking for the reactions button. It's like we work, yeah, we work so much in teams. Like that's great, that's great. But yeah, I wanted to say that that was awesome. Really excited about those improvements on the AI side. I have been creating RAG applications lately. I can tell it's very easy to use those libraries just to plug in whatever model you want to use. And I would say you just try it. It's
Yeah.
easy. So we have a few questions for you. Some are going to be very basic, others are going to be more complex. The first one is so I am a VS Code user. I don't have a Visual Studio Code license. How can I add .NET Aspire to my project because I don't have like right click and all those
Oh,
great things from Visual Studio? How do I do it?
yeah. So what's really cool is if you're in Visual Studio Code, you can install the C# dev kit. So that is the official C# extension. There's two extensions. There's a C# extension and then the C# dev kit. And you can use the free Visual Studio subscription, the community edition. So you don't need a paid license for it at all. Remember, Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code with the C# dev kit, free community edition. So you just sign in with your Microsoft account. It's free. Same with GitHub Copilot free. It's free, right? You sign in with GitHub. So install that, and then you will actually have right-click add .NET Aspire Orchestrator support. So it'll be in there. So just install the C# dev kit.
That's
Yeah,
very
cool.
cool. Good
Yeah.
to know. Thanks for that. And the other question is about .NET Aspire as well. So what happens if I am not using a monorepo setup for my projects? Can I
Mhm.
still use .NET Aspire? How do I use it? Because I have like a distributed repo, so I don't have a way
Yeah.
to like have all things in a single basket.
Yeah. So the cool thing about .NET Aspire is that one, you can have like multiple app hosts. So some development teams, they have like a back end team, they have a front end team,
Mhm.
and then a lot of the front end teams like mock out data, so they don't even need to access like full back ends, or maybe they're testing and they're hitting a a test server, for example. So with .NET Aspire, you can have one or many app hosts, but your app host can reference projects that aren't in the solution. So you just in your CS proj, you just give it a location. Basically, it's really really simple. So for example, on your local machine, you might have basically a back end and a front end, different repos, and you can just easily add a project reference just manually if you need to spin up those services. Now, if you don't need to, what's cool is that let's say you're a front end developer and um, you don't actually ever run the backends locally on your machine. You're just like testing, test URLs. Inside of that add project, you can say with environment variable, and you can provide it environment variables to use in general. So you could test that out. You can also use Azure integrations and point it at like a resource group, and it can connect to Azure resources automatically too. So there's a lot of options in there. But if you have more questions, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or something like that and ask me questions about deeper things. But there's a great FAQ. So there's a great like FAQ on the documentation. So just type in
Oh,
.NET Aspire FAQ documentation, and it'll show you how to do that stuff.
okay, that's cool. I'll
Yeah.
make sure to put that link in the comment section. We have one last question because we're on time. It's about .NET MAUI. I know there are a lot of it's an active developer community in Guatemala, so they are asking, do you see .NET MAUI in the future, not right now, converging with Blazor at some point because they are similar to some degree, and that's the question. Do I pick MAUI? Do I
Hmm.
pick Blazor? I'm a big fan of Blazor myself, but
Yeah.
yeah, as I said, there are people that really like MAUI, and they see like those two paths at some point will converge, or maybe not. So
I think they're already converged, to be honest with you. I mean, there's sort of with .NET MAUI, you have Blazor hybrid support today. So you can easily today take all of your Blazor components and all of your business logic that's 100% Blazor, and you can add a Blazor web view into your .NET MAUI application and host your Blazor application fully. So you can basically have a shell, which is the .NET MAUI app, so it can run on iOS, Android, Mac, and Windows, and put your Blazor content inside of there, which is really cool. So then you can share it between your backend and front end. And in fact, with .NET 9, there's a new project template that's a .NET MAUI plus Blazor hybrid and web. So it gives you a website, a Blazor front end, a .NET MAUI app, and shared components. So it's the same app that's running on web and on mobile, and it's sharing all of it there. So obviously that's web UI, right? The cool part with .NET MAUI is you can mix and match UI. So you could have some of your app be native UI. You could have some of it be, Blazor and web UI, or it could be 100% one or the other, right? So you can blend it there. And in .NET 9, the team also added a hybrid web view. So you could also add like Angular, Vue, or React components as well into a MAUI app. So think of MAUI as a platform that will enable you as a Blazor developer or a web developer to bring that web stuff into mobile and desktop. So I think it's already converged, and it's up to you what you want to do. And those teams, they're the same team, so they all work together, the .NET team. So it's all there. So definitely give it a look.
That's very cool. That I like that it's flexible and it's already compatible. And as you said, it's already converging. So okay, more options for developers. That's always good. I like to have options. All right, I think we're on time. Yeah, right on time.
Awesome.
Let me bring back. Let's see, Carlos. Are you guys ready? They are pointed to the crowd. I don't know. Yeah, it's looking a little bit blurry. But yeah, oh yeah, he's trying. I don't know, maybe you have like focus. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, we're in time. Thank you so much, James, for taking the time to be here with us. I know everyone at on site is very excited to hear what you said about .NET 9 and all the cool stuff you show us with .NET Aspire on, and also AI, which is hot topic today. Well, it's not hot anymore. It's like more of a standard, I would say, we see every day, everywhere. So thank you so much. Oh yeah, we can see the crowd. Yeah. Hola. All right, so maybe next time we'll have you on site in person. That will be super cool.
Awesome.
But yeah, for now, I have to say thank you. Thank you,
Yeah,
everyone.
thank you so much. Thank you. Have a great conf.
Thank you.